Hi, everybody. It's Ernesto, licensed marriage and family therapist, and I am the creator of Not Your Typical Psychotherapist Summits, the Kauai Summits. I do a lot of stuff as far as the summits and conference. But I have in front of me Clarissa, who was one of the attendees for the Not Your Typical Psychotherapist Summit here in Anaheim, and I wanted to interview her because her story is incredible. And I just wanted to see from her perspective, her journey, and how she got to the place where she's at right now. So, Clarissa, hello, introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Clarissa. I'm a licensed professional counselor, been in private practice for 5.5 years, and recently a published author as well.
That is one of the most amazing things that I'm going to be talking about in a little bit here. But the Not Your Typical Psychotherapist Summit is basically reaching out to clinicians who don't fall within the boundaries of the clinical things that we are taught, right? We are now, we therapists in this day and age, we're authors, we're leaders, we have group practices, we do all kinds of stuff outside of the clinical world. And Clarissa just wrote a book. So before that, before we get into that, tell us a little bit about what you do at the moment, your profession, your work with your clients, and how you were before the summit.
Okay, yeah. So I started out my clinical internship in college. I was working with our county jail. And so I worked with a lot of inmates, both male and female. And then that kind of led into my start into private practice. I worked with a lot of probationers. And so that's where my counseling practice, the foundation that it was built on was inmates and, a lot of repeat offenders. And then I really got kind of burned out with that. And I wanted to do something a little bit different and kind of find my passion. And so throughout the last couple of years in particular, I've really been working on growing my practice of really young millennials and the older Gen Z population. I really love the late high school to 30s age, just because there's so much life transition that happens in that time, and it's so difficult. And there's so many expectations put on young people to just somehow magically know how to handle their life and all of these things that they've never had to do before as young adults. And so that's really what my practice is focused on now, is working with that age group and just helping them. I call it adulting, like helping them learn how to adult and do that as smoothly as possible.
Yeah. That's really interesting because in this day and age, absolutely, the millennials, the younger folks know how to use technology. I mean, they are so savvy, but unfortunately, not very many of them know how to use or utilize their gifts as entrepreneurs. So what inspired you to attend the Not Your Typical Psychotherapist Summit?
So I was really at a place last May of just kind of trying to figure out what do I want to do with my practice. I was niching it down, and that was terrifying. And I had just recently stopped accepting some insurance panels. And so there was just I knew there were a lot of possibilities of building courses and, maybe teaching different classes or something like that. And I didn't really know what I wanted to do. And then when I saw your lineup of speakers and presenters, I was like, oh, okay, I need to go, because that's a lot of what we were going to be talking about. And I just really wanted to connect with other outside the box therapists, because it's so important to personal growth, in my opinion. Like I can just be mentally stuck. And then the second I call my accountability partner, it's like, boom, boom, boom. All of these ideas are just flowing out. And so I wanted a weekend of that. I wanted a weekend where my brain was just exploding and overflowing.
And you were.
Yeah.
I mean, everyone in that room, you could actually feel that energy, but something special really happened to you at the summit, and it was actually caught on video.
Yeah, it was. That was that was a little trippy. So courtesy of one of your presenters, Michael, he gave us this challenge to really step outside of our comfort zone and challenged us to think about, okay, what's one way in the next, I believe it was 6 weeks maybe, that we wanted to really step outside of our comfort levels and just in some way to take our business to the next level. And that the choice that I made there at the conference changed everything. It really did. And I mean, my promise to myself was that I was just going to post more on social media, on Instagram, because I was in the process of writing my book slowly, and I wanted to gain followers and, you know, and be able to influence people in that process. And so that was my only goal, was to just post a little bit more frequently on Instagram, and then it just exploded from there. So it
That's
was wild.
amazing. That's amazing stuff. You know, you actually were inspired, but instead of just letting that inspiration stay in your mind, you actually acted on it, which is, you know, not very many of us. Sometimes we get so intimidated with inspiration that we have in our minds and in our hearts,
Mhm.
and we get stuck. But for you, it was a little bit different. Tell us a little bit more about your process.
Yeah, so I mean, that conference was at the end of May, and I continued to write my book, and continue to post about it. I did that. I did keep that commitment to myself, and I ended up
And I can
reaching
see
out
your
to
book right
Michael.
behind you.
Yes, yeah, it's back there. um, yeah, so actually reached out to Michael because he had recently published a book that we were
Right.
talking about at the conference. It was amazing, and you know, I asked a lot of questions about publishing and how he went about it, and he got me connected to the self-publishing school that I actually, you know, attended and participated in order to publish my book. So it was very fast, from May to November 1st
Yeah, it
was
was.
the release date. So yeah, it was all very quick, and I give a lot of credit to your conference and just the connections I made there, because I wouldn't have been connected to all the resources I needed otherwise.
So what would you recommend then for people who are watching this video and, you know,
Mhm.
who've been on the website and are really on the edge of, should I go or should I not go? What would you say? What would you recommend?
I recommend go. What do you? I mean, what do you have to lose? I mean, if you're, you know, you're an entrepreneur, trip is a tax write-off. Like, you really don't have, you know, what? I mean, really, like, what do you have to lose? You get to go to Florida, you get to hang out with cool people, and I mean, worst case scenario, you get to go to Florida. Best case scenario, you skyrocket your business into places that you didn't even know it could go.
That's amazing. So before we move on, can you pick up your book right behind you? Because I
I
gave
have it right
away.
here.
There it is. I ordered a box of Clarissa's book, and I gave it to a few of my one for two of them for my niece and nephews, and the other are a couple of my clients who I had in the past, and they absolutely love it. Clarissa, your book
Oh,
is,
that's so awesome.
it really, really is. So maybe there's a podcast in the future for you, right? Maybe.
There is.
Oh,
Yes.
called it.
Yep.
I didn't even
Already.
know.
Yep. Already in the works.
See, this is what happens when you go to not your typical psychotherapist. Things like this come
It's
up
so
all
true.
the time,
It's
right?
so true.
So hold up your book.
Okay.
uh, so this is her book, Worthy. I mean, look at the cover. It is just. When I first saw that, she texted me the picture of it before it went out, and I was floored by the image. And for those of you who know, I do a lot of promotional videos, photography,
Mhm.
and I do all kinds of art stuff. This, I was just so floored with the image of it because you can project so much onto that picture. Can you hold it up again?
Yeah.
So with this book, I want you to pick it up. Where can people get the book?
It's on Amazon.
Look at
And
that.
if anybody that wants a signed, personalized copy can message me directly, and I ship them out as well.
And she will also have a book signing. She doesn't know
I
this
will.
yet. I'm actually going to tell her. At the Not Typical Psychotherapist, we're going to have booths for many of the clinicians who've written a book, and Clarissa will have a spot there to, you know, sell her books, and she's going to be writing her book. Writing her book. She will be autographing it, and then she loves taking selfies. She's great at taking selfies. So let's do it.
I learned from the best.
So Clarissa, before we move on, tell us a little bit about the book. What is the gist of the book? Who is it for? And how can people be inspired by it?
Yeah, so the whole title, so the book is called Worthy, but the subtitle is Learning to Date in a World That Tells You You're Not Enough. And that, anytime I would tell people the title when I was getting ready to publish, they were like, oh my gosh, like it hits, even married people, like it just hits to the core of a big struggle that our society has, is like our worthiness in general is up for debate all the time. There's always going to be someone telling you that you're worthless for whatever reason. And I found that there was this really, really tragic connection between our level of self-worth and when it comes to dating, and that we were seen as less than, because I'm a 30-year-old single woman, that a lot of people were looking down on me and my value and what I could bring to the world, and diminishing that because I don't have a significant other. And I just felt like more women needed to be empowered to thrive in their single life and be ready. I call it successfully single, because you need to know how to be successfully single and thrive in that life in order to be able to receive a person that is deserving of you and that is going to be a healthy relationship. And so that's the heart of the book. So it's
what a beautiful testimony to what you have done for the community who really needs to hear this. You know, not only from a personal perspective, but also encouraging others who, and they're not. And you're right. Society really puts your worth in debate, right? It's almost as if, you know, you're not enough unless you're connected with someone.
Absolutely.
Right.
And so that hope is that our connection is going to be our community of friends. So that through this book, I do a lot of action steps throughout. Every single chapter has my personal testimony that leads into a reflection piece for the reader. And then after they've reflected and they've determined more of what they want as an individual, then I show them how to put that into action. I give them a challenge of some sort to do at the end of every single chapter. So it's not just reading my story and being like, oh, well, that girl's successful at being single. Okay, but like, can I? Absolutely. Yes. Wow. So, and we showed the front of the book, but the side of the book, it's not huge, because being single is not a massive issue. Being successfully single is doable. And I didn't want people to pick up the book that was, 5 inches thick and be like, well, I'm just a lost cause. So forget it.
Yeah, absolutely. So I will have the link to your book in this video. And for those of you who haven't signed up yet, we would love to see you at the Not Your Typical Psychotherapist Summit in South Florida. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's right by the beach.
But I mean, that you had me at beach. Like, that's all you needed to say. I was like, I don't even care who's going to be there, because I'm going to be there by the beach with Ernesto. Done.
Exactly, right? It's a party all the way around. So please, I'm going to have the link on this video and also on this post as well, too. So for those of you who haven't registered yet, please do so. We have some limited seats, so please, please, please attend. It's going to be a lot of fun. Mike Michalowicz will be our keynote speaker, which is for those of you who are financially fit or not, this is the place to be. Okay, so Clarissa, thanks again for being here.
Thank you.
All right. Aloha.
Aloha.